Hi, it's Lisa. I'd like to share with you the process for creating an art journal page. You can flip off the volume and just look at the captions on the screen, or you're welcome to leave the volume on and listen to my descriptions as we go along. I have a brand new art journal. This is a Strathmore 9 3/4 by 7 3/4 size. And since this is the very first page, I'm going to be doing some jelly printing, but I thought that I would play around on regular paper first to see what I liked before I hopped in and worked right in my art journal. That's not the norm, but that's just since it was the first page in a brand new book. And I picked out some papers and some stencils. One of the things I usually do first is go through and pull paints and see which paints that appeal to me on a particular day. And you'll see that I've done some jelly printing here just to kind of show you some of the things that I was thinking about doing. That paisley stencil was one that really appealed to me, and also using some chipboard where the letters had been popped out. What I decided though was that paisley stencil might be just a little bit too fancy for what I'm feeling on this particular day. So I'm opened up my art journal really good, flattened out the middle there, and I'm ready to start in with it using a little bit different stencil, not the paisley one, but the one you'll see there just to the left on the screen. It's one I found at Hobby Lobby back in the stencil area where they have home stencils, and it has a bunch of the arabesque styles on there. And I'm going to use some reds. So Martha Stewart red and the pickled raspberry color, which is new to me from the Distress Inks. It's an older color. And I'm adding just a touch of silver paint. Doesn't take a lot. But my experimenting there told me that these were the colors that was really what appealed to me on this particular day, rather than so much of that blue color. I will be using some blue, but not quite as much. Now I went back, I put the stencil down and I went over the stencil as well with the paint, so that gives me paint that'll come through the stencil as well as paint that's on top of the stencil. And that's one page of it, and then I'm going to flip the art journal over again and press it on the other page. And I've got some paper in there to try to keep the paint off of the subsequent pages, and it worked really well. I did not get any paint over on the other pages. I do, though, have a little area there in the middle that I'll have to cover up. Now I'm going to pull the rest of the ghost print on there. That was really pretty. And add a little bit of the blue. I want to try to get a little blue on my page, but not tons of it. I don't want to cover up all my red. So I've got a couple of blue craft paints. One of them is the Martha Stewart Pearl paint, which I just love. They have that glimmer to them, just really beautiful paints. And I'm taking some old, well, I want to get some of that paint off of there. So I'm pulling some of it off with some paper and a little bit of that paisley design. And I'm pressing some old chipboard, leftover chipboard stuff onto the jelly plate, and that will give me those letters and numbers, and they'll end up being right side up when they're jelly printed. Alright, we've got our book, and we're just going to pick up a little bit on each page, not a ton of it. Okay, so now we got a little bit of blue and a little bit of red in a very casual graffiti style, and I decided I would do just a tad more with this, with maybe some of these circles. This is a stencil I cut myself on the Silhouette, either the Silhouette or the Cricut. I may have done that on the Cricut with a whole bunch of circles. I've had it a long time. I think I'd have done the Cricut. Okay, and we're going to put just a touch of green and some beige paint there, I think. Or no, it was two different shades of green. We'll just get a few little circles on our page this way. There we go. That adds some of those dots. And then I'm going to take the leftovers and put that over on the other page. And that pulls a little bit more of the blue color over on that left-hand page. And this will be the base for the art journal page. Now I'll clean up all my stuff. And now I want to fill in that middle part there. at the middle of the spine of the book that didn't quite get enough color, and I'm just using a little red paint on a sponge. There was some on the edge too that didn't get filled in. I decided just to leave that for now. Now I'm basing all of this on a page that I did in my completed art journal the last time, where I had a jelly print background and it had some designs with a circle kind of stencil. So I'm doing the same kind of thing. I'm just getting a completely different page because I'm using different pictures and different stencils and the whole bit. This time I'm going to do some gesso for part of this circle design, and then we're going to switch over to texture medium, which is it's a more transparent white. I'm sorry, iridescent medium I meant to say. So we're going to kind of go from the white over to the iridescent to sort of feather this out. Yeah. And then in the opposite corner, I'm just going to use the iridescent medium. And there's a lot of shine to it. I don't know if that comes through really good on the camera, but there it is. Because I'm doing this later in the evening, you can really see that shine. That white strip on the edge really bothered me, so I decided I'd just put some washi tape over it. And I want to get some more pink into this anyway, so I pulled out some washi tapes and selected one of the pinks. If you're going to put washi tape on your painted surfaces, you definitely have to put some extra adhesive. The stuff often needs extra adhesive, but it definitely needs some tape runner or some kind of adhesive to stay put. But once you do that, it'll stay really well. That was another feature of the page that I was emulating from my other art journal, is it had some washi tape. It had it used in a completely different way, but just some of the same kinds of things. I took the distress paint and put some pink dots on there, and now I'm ready to add some writing. And you'll see over on the left that I have added a little box. It's packaging, I think, for some transparency film and some paper to kind of build up the left side, because this is a new journal, so that left hand page was only just a couple of sheets in the cover. So this will make it a little more even, a little bit easier to write. My quote is, avoiding unhappiness is not the road to happiness. And where I got this from is a movie called Hector and His Pursuit, or His Search for Happiness, something like that. It's a really good movie. I am not a big movie person, but we've been having movie night the last couple of nights here, and my husband picked this out, and it was a really cute movie, and it has these wonderful quotes that I thought were very true. And what the quote means to me is that if you spend all your time trying to make sure that things don't go wrong, you'll miss a lot of opportunities to do other things. And if you avoid situations that you might think you're going to get uncomfortable with, or whatever, that might bring you unhappiness, you might really miss something that you would have liked. So I thought it was a really good quote, and one that I probably need to see a lot more often. Taking my Faber Castell markers and filling in my letters that I wrote with the Faber Castell brush pens. I used the F size to start with, and it was a little too small, so then I went to the M. And now these big brush pens to fill in happiness. And what I decided to do with that was a lighter pink on top and a darker pink on the bottom. Some pages I write in there what I'm thinking or feeling for the day, and other pages I do a quote. And this quote happened to be really relevant to what was going on. Now my circles, once they dried, I decided to add some white pen to them. This is also a Faber Castell brush. It's the big pens, but it doesn't have a brush tip. It has more of a foam tip to it. And I use the brush pens to do some shading around the edges to make those pop, just shaded as if the light were coming from the upper left corner, so I'm shading on the lower right corner. You do have to brush those off really quickly with your hands, or they are permanent. If I'd had Mod Podge or something on the surface, they'd work even better. And I did a little bit of shading around the letters for happiness also. Now I've got a few words there that I haven't filled in, and I felt like I needed maybe some blue, but I didn't have a blue in the Faber Castell, but I do have one in the Stampin' Up! Markers, and that's a little bit better size. And I also felt like these needed a little bit of white on them. I'm just taking a white pen, I got this at Hobby Lobby, and going over my letters here. And I won't show you all this on camera, but just part of it. Just kind of going over both not road and then the word happiness. I added a little bit of the yellow there as well. I'm not quite my hand shakes a little bit too much with this white pen. I'm not really steady with it yet. Now I still wasn't happy with that middle, so I used a Faber Castell marker to fill in a little bit of red, leaving a few white spots so it doesn't look too perfect. No worries there. And I did feel like this needed just a little bit more, maybe a little bit of black. So I found some stamps and black archival ink. This is a My Mind's Eye stamp set. Those are always a good buy. But my first efforts at stamping here, it didn't really take so good. And then you'll see it takes really good at one point. And I end up with too much black on there. And we'll see how to fix that too. There we go. And I almost got too much. So I evened it out so every area had black. And then I decided that that stood out too much. So I toned it down with some white gesso over one of my favorite stencils, because it's great for this purpose, is all these little dots. And if you have to do this, what looks good is not to just put it over what you're trying to cover up, but also do it somewhere else on the page too, so it doesn't just look like you were trying to cover up your mistake. If you think it's a, it's a matter of opinion. Everything about this is a matter of opinion. That's what's so fun about it is, this is just a page in an art journal. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just what's fun for the day. We'll get that done, and I will show you some close-ups of the page. And we'll also see the page of what this was originally based on. So you can see our gesso and the iridescent medium. I almost put something in the middle of those pink circles, and then I decided maybe enough, because sometimes I just go a step too far with these. But this really did capture my mood, and a quote that I thought was really relevant and recent in my finding. Here's the page that I kind of used as inspiration. It had a jelly print background. It had some stenciled areas and a little bit of washi tape. And you see we got a very different look with the same kinds of products and techniques. So thank you so much for watching.